All right, let's dive into something really fascinating today, fables of the mind. We're going to be unpacking the incredible psychological insights that are hidden deep inside the ancient Indian fables of the Panchatantra.
And that brings up a pretty big question, right? I mean, can these stories about talking animals written literally thousands of years ago really tell us anything about our lives? Our world of social media, of corporate boardrooms, of just constant connection?
The answer is a huge, resounding yes. They absolutely can. You just have to know where and how to lurk. Because, see, the Panchatantra isn't just a collection of bedtime stories for kids, it's really a boot camp for the mind. Think about it. This was originally a treatise on how to live wisely, basically a masterclass designed to teach young princes how to navigate a really complex and often pretty dangerous world. And those lessons? Wow, they are just as potent today.
So let's start with the first opponent we all face, and honestly, the most dangerous one, ourselves. This first section is all about the traps of self-deception. The ways our own minds can become our biggest weakness. Okay, so our first case file. It's about a cruel lion named Basharaka who was just so full of himself that he literally couldn't see what was right in front of him. A clever little rabbit, whose turn it was to be lunch, tricks him. He claims there's a rival lion, another king, living in a nearby well. Well, the lion, completely enraged and unable to stand the thought of a challenger, goes to the well, sees his own reflection, and leaps in to attack it, falling to his death. And what's so brilliant about this is that the rabbit didn't use force, he used psychology. He triggered what modern psychology calls a narcissistic injury. Just the idea that another lion could be as powerful as him was such an unbearable threat to his ego that it sent him into a blind rage. And this story just perfectly illustrates two key ideas. First, you've got projection. The lion wasn't fighting another animal, he was fighting his own reflection, his own anger projected outward. And second, cognitive blindness. His rage was so all-consuming that it created this intense tunnel vision. He couldn't process the simple reality of an echo or the fact that he was looking at water. His own ego is what drowned him. All right, let's move on to our second case. This one's about a jackal who, running from some dogs, accidentally falls into a huge vat of indigo dye. He comes out bright blue, and of course, all the other animals are completely terrified of him. He sees an opportunity and immediately declares himself a special divine king sent from the heavens. This is imposter syndrome in its most literal form. The jackal lives in this constant, paralyzing fear that he's going to be exposed as a total fraud. And to protect his secret, he actually banishes all the other jackals from his kingdom, totally isolating himself. So yeah, he's a king, but he's also a prisoner of his own lie. Now here's the crucial part. He tried to suppress his swabhava, his fundamental nature, who he really was. But you can only keep that up for so long, right? One night, he hears a pack of jackals howling in the distance, and before he can even think, his deepest instinct, a pure Pavlovian response, just kicks in and he howls right back. His cover is blown, the mask shatters, and the other animals, furious at the deception, tear him to pieces. Okay, so we've just seen how we can fool ourselves. Now let's flip the script and look at how others use psychology to fool us. This next section is all about the external strategies, the art of manipulation. This story is about a brutal war between crows and owls. The owls, being nocturnal hunters, have the upper hand and are just devastating the crow population. So the Crow King comes up with this incredibly cunning plan. He has his own flock attack him, beat him up, and leave him for dead right under the owl's fortress. He plays the part of a defector, claiming he was exiled for wanting to make peace, and the Owl King, completely ignoring the warnings of his wisest advisor, takes him in. I mean, this is a total masterclass in psychological warfare. The crow is a living Trojan horse, playing on the owl's vanity. Of course they loved hearing a crow tell them how great they were. This feeds directly into the Owl King's confirmation bias. He wanted to believe he was superior, so he just ignored all the red flags. And that leads to groupthink. The owl's safe fortress became a dangerous echo chamber where no one dared to disagree. And the result? The crow learned all their secrets, and one day, he led his own flock back to set the owl's home on fire, burning them alive. Our next case? Well, this one is maybe the most chillingly modern of all. A holy man, a Brahmin, is carrying a goat he plans to sacrifice. 3 crooks see him and decide they want that goat for their dinner. But they don't use force. Nope, they use words. The way they do it is just so systematic, it's terrifying. The first crook walks by and plants a tiny seed of doubt. Hey, why are you carrying a dog? The Brahmin is annoyed, but he just keeps walking. Then, the second crook comes along and escalates it. Whoa, that's a dead calf. Now the Brahmin is really confused. He actually stops to check the animal. By the time the third crook casually asks, "Sir, why are you carrying a donkey?" the man's entire sense of reality has been shattered. He panics, convinced the animal is some kind of shape-shifting demon, drops it, and runs for his life. This is, and I'm not exaggerating, a perfect textbook definition of gaslighting written 2,000 years ago. It's the systematic feeding of false information to someone until they start to doubt their own senses, their own sanity. The crooks didn't steal the goat, they made the Brahmin give it away.
So let's just quickly compare these two strategies. The crow's infiltration was the long game, right? It was based on building trust to exploit his target's vanity. The crook's gaslighting, though, was a short, sharp shock, a rapid attack based on creating doubt to exploit perception and fear. Both are incredibly powerful because they don't target your body, they target your mind's vulnerabilities.
And that brings us to our final section, the incredible price we pay for simple unawareness. The danger of just acting without really understanding what you're doing. This is a short one, but it's sharp and tragic. Some workers are building a temple. They've started to split a huge log, and they leave it half-split, held open by a big wooden wedge. A curious monkey comes along, sees this wedge, and with no idea what it's for, starts messing with it. He pulls and pulls until it comes out. The log slams shut, and he's instantly crushed.
The psychological lesson here is just crystal clear. This is all about boundary issues, about failing to recognize the limits of your own competence. The monkey was meddling in something that was none of his business. It's a perfect example of uninformed curiosity. He manipulated a high-risk system without having a clue about its mechanics. It's just a powerful, timeless warning against acting on impulse without knowledge.
So, after looking at all of this, from narcissism and imposter syndrome to gaslighting and simple meddling, what's the big takeaway? What does it all mean? Well, it's this. The basic operating system of the human mind, it really hasn't changed. The scenery is totally different, sure. We have offices instead of jungles and social media feeds instead of village squares, but the fundamental patterns of our behavior, our ego, our fears, our biases, our capacity for deception, they're exactly the same.
And when you lay it all out like this, the modern parallels are just impossible to ignore. The lion's narcissistic injury, that's the explosive rage you see when someone gets criticized online. The Brahmin getting gaslit, that's a pattern that plays out in toxic, manipulative relationships every single day. The blue jackal's imposter syndrome, that's that nagging fear of being found out at your job. And the owl's confirmation bias is the perfect blueprint for our social media echo chambers.
This quote about the jackal really just says it all, doesn't it? The constant fear of exposure, the way it leads to isolation, and that terrifying idea that the parts of ourselves we suppress can erupt uncontrollably when we're triggered. That's not just an old fable. That's a deep psychological truth that's as real now as it ever was.
So I'll leave you with a final thought to chew on. Now that you have these new lenses, now that you can spot narcissistic injury, gaslighting, imposter syndrome, which of these ancient fables of the mind do you see playing out around you? In your own life, on the news, in the world today? Because once you start looking for them, you'll start seeing them everywhere.